Be careful of claiming the results of your clients or your students for your own. So, what do I mean by this? Well, I was thinking about this the other day, thinking about whether it relates to school, whether it relates to athletes, whether it relates to clients. When people are in that position of leadership, let's just say a coach or a teacher, or in my case, a trainer, if I look at those specific people and look at their results and claim them for myself, I might not understand what's really going on. Now, let me explain. Are some students who get an A in your class, or some sports teams, going to be really good athletes because of you or because of their genetics? So with students, I know so many kids that even if they had no teacher, they would still get an A. So if, let's just say there was a class full of those students, and a teacher then said, "Oh, look at my class, everyone got straight A's." Well, is that the teacher or is that the students? Same thing with this with a team. I remember, looking at teams with terrible coaches, but they got results because they had stars on their teams. They performed really well because of the athletes that they had. Same thing with clients. I might have a client and I could have done anything with them and they would have gotten results. But if I start getting my ego involved in thinking, oh, I created that, versus thinking about, hey, maybe this person had genetics that ended up giving them these results very quickly, whether that be in strength or muscle building or whatever. A lot of times people have genetics for that. Well, in regard to coaching, in regard to teaching, in regard to training, what I want to be focused on, or and I think a lot of people as good teachers and good coaches focus on, is not so much the best in their class, the best athletes. What they focus on is taking the people that are, let's just say, D students or C students and making them B students, or even C students, taking them from a D to a C, or a failing student and making them a passing grade. And with athletes and with clients, it's someone that really needs help, and we're able to make them improve from session to session or year by year. And that to me is where it's really rewarding. Because like I said, the A students, the gifted athletes, they're gonna do well regardless. But I think I see it all the time where I see someone who has an athlete, and the athlete is already gifted and they can already dunk a basketball, or they already have big muscles, and they tweak their program a little bit and they say, oh, look what I've done to this person. And I sit back and I go, did you really have any impact on that? Because that person was going to respond just by growing in life, just by training in general. They were going to make those little improvements, whether it was with your program or with anyone else's. And so I'm not saying that gifted athletes don't need coaching and they don't need direction. I'm not saying that at all. And good students don't need that as well. We definitely need that, and it's a great place. But what I'm saying is does the teacher or the coach, are they really responsible for those results? And what I try to do is I try to help people, the normal everyday person. I don't train a lot of gifted athletes, but if I was going to train them, it's not really like I'm doing that much. And I even tell that to my clients, any of my clients. I say, hey, you're doing all the work. I'm just sitting here telling you what to do. You can take it or leave it, but you're creating those results. And I also have to make sure that I keep my ego in check and make sure I'm not, taking the credit for their results, because at the end of the day, they're putting in the work. But I would love to help people who aren't doing well, who are struggling, and help them, whether that's, I want to help people achieve their genetic potential when it comes to health and fitness. I want to have them achieve their goals. And at the end of the day, they have to take themselves through that. But some people's genetic limit is smaller than others. And we get into this idea that, oh, well, look at that person's clients, let's just say, that their client isn't fit, so they must not be a good trainer. Or they themselves, hey, that trainer isn't that fit, they must not be a good trainer. Well, there's a genetic factor. I know people that are out there that don't work out that look amazing, that have muscles. Let's just say, as a guy, I know tons of guys that don't work out, have a six pack, and have muscles. Genetics. They have these genetics that they don't need to do anything, and their body has that already. As long as they don't eat like a slob, they're okay. Well, same thing with clients, right? Some clients, their genetics are on the other end, where it's really hard for them to build muscle. It's really hard for them to lose fat. And they work really hard and they diet and they try and they do these things and they barely get any result. They don't really take themselves from slob to six pack. And I look at that as a success if they've been able to, like I said, go from a failing student, go from unhealth to somewhat of health. They might not look like it on the outside, but they've worked really hard and they've gotten some results and they're happy with that. Maybe their goal wasn't to get a six pack. Maybe it was just to lose 15 pounds, all right, or be able to do a squat up and down because they've been struggling going to the bathroom, let's say. And so when we judge people on the way that they look versus, hey, what's their genetic potential? Same thing in school. What's their potential? What's their IQ? Like, what can they really do? And maybe their potential is C's and B's and not A's. You can't really get so upset at them if they're achieving their potential of C's and B's. Not everyone has that limit of, the top. So as a trainer, as a coach, it's easy to fall into the trap of, hey, look at my clients, look at that. If I could cherry pick clients, I could go around and just find people with great genetics and then tell everyone, look at the people that I have. Look at how good my clients are. I must be the best trainer. And I think it's a very easy thing for us to do to fall into that trap. But I would love to work with people that have tried. That's kind of what I end up doing. I work with a lot of people that have tried a lot of things and they haven't gotten any results. So I love working with people that are kind of at their end and they're going, oh, well, I've tried everything and it doesn't work. I just can't get to my goal that I'm looking for. And then they come work with me and I'm able to not turn their genetics around, but able to make little improvements here and there. And I find the most gratification from that because people actually really appreciate it. They see, hey, they don't turn into, some actress or some supermodel, Tyra Banks or something like that. They don't get this perfect body, but they end up improving. Whereas before they put all this effort out and they weren't able to improve. And so again, I still have to check myself and not take the credit for those results because they're working. They're the ones that are doing the actual work. They're showing up. They're doing the diet when I'm not around. Obviously they're on their own for hours and hours and hours throughout the week. They only come to see me a couple hours. So if they're doing the work, I can't take credit for that. I'm just a guide. And I think so many of us out there, I've been guilty of it. Look at me, look what I've done versus, hey, I'm just a guide. They're the ones doing that. Their genetic potential dictates kind of where they can end up. And if they want it, they can work for it. If not, then they don't work for it, right? And they get mediocre results. So that's what I like working with. I'd rather take an F or a failing student or a D student and get them to a C or a B or potentially an A. That's a really big win. But sometimes it's just not in the cards. Sometimes it's just not in the cards for someone to get a six pack and to get big muscles, all right? Or to get the whatever figure it is that you want to fill in the blank for their goal. And they have to adjust their goals. But that's just the facts of reality. And as a trainer, we have to get in touch with that and understand, hey, we're just a guide for our clients. We're just a guide for our students. And hopefully we can, get them to level up, get that F to a D, get that D to a C, just those little bits here and there. And I find that people are very, very appreciative of when they do make those levels. Whereas someone who's an A student that goes from an A to an A plus, it's not that, it's helpful and it's great and it's improvement. But like I said, they were going to get an A otherwise. And sometimes I sit down with clients and I'm like, I can't do much for you, right? You're doing everything right. And those are usually the clients that I teach. we work together, and then they're off doing their own thing. I'm like, you don't really necessarily need it. You've got the work ethic, you've got the genetics. You just needed to tighten up these couple things, and off you go. And so I like working with the more I was at every gym that I was at. I always ended up getting the most difficult clients, the people that no one could deal with, the ones that were frustrating, the ones that made all the excuses, because I was just patient with them, and I was patient because the frustrating results and their frustration might come from their genetics, and they don't understand that. And I don't sugarcoat things. I don't tell them that they can get a six pack in 6 weeks. I tell them, look, it's going to be hard. And I think sometimes that realization of that they have to put in this work, that they are up against it, they are up against genetics, is something that they need to hear. And that way, when they do make those improvements, they see it versus expecting that they're going to have these crazy, results from things. So anyways, I was just thinking about that. I got into a conversation last night at a Christmas dinner with my old basketball coach, and we were talking about that same thing of how gratifying it is to take people who aren't very gifted into some results, whereas having the gifted athletes, you win all the games. He's a basketball coach. You win all the games, you win all the tournaments, you win everything, and it's like, I don't know if I really had a role in that, but it's real easy to connect yourself to that and say, oh, look at me, what I did when you were just gifted with these athletes. So anyways, that's all I have on that today, and until tomorrow, I'll see you then.